Hi guys, welcome to Financial Literacy. We've been talking about savings for the last few class periods, and I wanted to review them today and kind of wrap up so we could prepare to have a test at the end of the week. But let's talk about what we have learned in saving. We started back in late October, and we've talked about saving early and often. We've talked about how saving and investing are different, and we've talked about understanding the fundamentals of saving, such as why to save, how much to save, and strategies to enable saving. And also we talked about why it's important to start investing for retirement while you're still young. So let's look at a few of these things. I'm going to go past the discussion question here. And you watched a video, how much should you save? And you should be saving about 20% of your paycheck as a rule of thumb. If you start saving right now, the earlier you save, the easier it is to save. If you start saving early, you save a regular amount and you don't touch it, your savings can grow into a substantial amount by the time you need them. Another assignment that you did was to talk about the difference between saving and investing. And the difference between saving and investing is explained in this video.
Saving and investing are two terms that are often used interchangeably. In practice, however, they are two very different tactics to help you reach your financial goals. Let's start with saving. It's the simpler one of the two. Saving is the amount of your income that you tuck away for a rainy day or near-term goals. And by tuck away, we mean somewhere where safety is typically your number one goal. Bank savings, checking accounts, and certificates of deposit are great examples of places to put your savings. Most people think of savings in terms of shorter-term goals and needs, perhaps funds for an upcoming vacation or a personal emergency reserve. So how is investing different? When you invest, you are buying an asset that you believe will generate a return over time. In other words, the main reason you invest is so your money will grow. Of course, with investing, there are typically no guarantees, and most investments are better suited to long-term goals, such as retirement. So, with no guarantees, why do people choose to invest in addition to saving? The answer lies in the increase in the cost of living over time, otherwise known as inflation. While savings vehicles may be good for putting away money for short-term goals, they typically don't generate returns beyond the level of inflation. In fact, they often lag inflation. That can mean your money isn't just standing still. It may be losing its purchasing power over time. The first goal of every investor should be to outpace inflation so their money can generate a solid, real return. That's the return after inflation. So while most investments do not offer guarantees, they generally offer the potential to beat inflation. Saving and investing go hand in hand, and each has a place in the financial plan, but they are definitely different. Talk to your financial advisor today about how you...
So the difference between saving and investing, as shown in the Franklin Templeton video, is that savings is something that you're going to be using in the short term, within 3 to 5 years. Investing is for longer, for example, for retirement, for something that is way in the future. And investing also has risk. When you are saving, you want to choose products that have less risk because you're going to need the money soon. And you don't want to put your money at risk where you have a chance to lose it. Another drawback, as shown in the video, was that savings accounts don't pay very much. So a lot of times inflation will eat up whatever growth your savings account has made. So you want to keep that in mind when you're choosing your savings products. So that leads us to the challenges to saving, is another thing that we covered in this unit. We talked about inflation, And we talked about the obstacles that everybody has when you're trying to save money. You need to pay yourself first, but a lot of times that just doesn't happen. And we also looked in to see why it's so important to have an emergency fund. And talking about an emergency fund, even someone as young as you are needs an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey says that even students need a $500 emergency fund for things like if you break your cell phone, if you have car trouble, and things like that. There's something for emergencies. Now remember, emergencies aren't things that you can plan for, like Christmas or birthdays or something like that. It's putting away money in case something happens. And we'll take a look at this short video to get an explanation of emergency fund.
Life is full of surprises, but you can be better prepared to handle them by building an emergency fund. Think of it as your financial safety net, a reliable source of money when you need it, so you don't have to resort to credit cards and loans. It's part of any good financial plan. Here are 3 things to know about an emergency fund. 1. How much to save. We suggest saving at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses. It may take time to get there, and that's okay. The important thing is to start today with what you can afford, and then build your way up to 5% of your paycheck. A helpful tip is to take advantage of automatic deposits, which help you put away a little bit each pay period without even thinking about it. 2. Where to keep your money. To avoid the temptation of tapping into your emergency fund for day-to-day expenses, we suggest keeping your money in a separate account. Consider a savings or money market account, so you have an easy way to access your cash when you need it, while you earn some interest in the meantime. 3. What to use it for. Only use your emergency fund for true emergencies, like health expenses, critical home and auto repairs, or paying essential expenses after a job loss. If you do have an emergency, be sure to replenish the money you use so it will be there for next time. Life happens, but an emergency fund can help you weather the unexpected and turn a potential financial catastrophe into an inconvenience. Together, we can help you build a strong financial foundation so you're more prepared to face life's unknowns.
Another thing that we talked about in this savings unit, after we talked about the importance of an emergency fund and where to set it up. Remember, you want your emergency fund to be accessible, but you don't want it to be so easy to get to that you want to tap into it all the time and you end up using it for things that aren't emergencies. Our unit talked about how to budget and to set up a budget. I know we've talked about budgeting before, and we've done our unit on budgeting earlier this year, but having a budget or a plan to spend your money is an important way to be able to put savings away. That way that you have you make savings a priority. So one article that you looked at was an article on the 50-20-30 budgeting rule. And what that basically says is the 50 part of it, 50% of your income needs to go to needs like clothing, food, housing, things that you need. 20% goes to savings, and that's all your savings. That goes to short-term savings like a vacation or a new car or a new phone. It goes for retirement. A portion of this 20% is going to be put away for long-term savings. Maybe you want to save up for a house, and also for your emergency fund. Now, your emergency fund, as the video said, should be the priority thing to save for. Now, once you get everything saved, once you get your emergency fund underway and well funded, then you can start saving for other things. But you need to get 3 to 6 months worth of expenses put away in a secure account so you have it in the event that you need it. And then the 30% part of budgeting is for your wants. things that you would like to have that you can work into your budget. But notice that the 20% comes before the 30%. You need to save first. Make that a priority before you start spending your money other places. And there were two questions here on this article. Why is the 50-20-30 rule easy for people to follow? It's because it was simple. It's easy to remember, and it's easy to set up. And the article also talked about 20% of your income is meant for savings, investing, and payments to reduce debt, because that's important. It's especially important to reduce debt because if you have debt, you're not saving. So we want to reduce debt too. So we want to make that a priority in this 20%. The potential risk of having all three in the same category is that you get them mixed up. You may have something for long-term savings and then you want to do something quickly and you may dip into it. Well, that kind of throws your long-term savings out of kilter. So you need to have separate accounts for these in order to keep them separate and to keep it safe. We also talked about a savings account, how to choose savings where you put your money, and you read an article on tips on opening a savings account. So you want to make sure before you choose the account, before you put your money where your mouth is, you want to make sure of the requirements of the account. For example, is there a minimum balance? Is there a certain balance you must put into the account every time? Are you limited to the number of times that you can get money out of your account? So you need to know that before you choose your account. Also, what kind of fees does the bank charge for your savings account? Sometimes if you don't have a large enough balance, you'll have larger fees and it eats up the money in your savings account. So be very careful about that. You also had an assignment where you compared types of savings accounts. Now in this assignment, you are researching the 4 different types of accounts here. A traditional savings account, like the kind you would go to the bank and open. An online savings account. Now these online are, some banks don't have a physical location. They're online only. So that's what you would do. That's the one you're going to look at. A certificate of deposit at the bank and a money market account. Now this is the bank money market account, not one with an investment firm. And then you researched a particular bank or credit union. You chose one. It could be a physical bank, it could be a website. You tell me what this is, and then for this bank, you're going to research each of these products that the bank offers and tell me all of this information. Then the next step you do is you're going to be an investment counselor. You're going to read each of these scenarios and then you're going to advise each of these people what kind of an account they should put their money in, which would be the best given their situation. And then finally today, you finished up with a personal savings rate in the U.S. This is one of the activities in your module. And I wanted to particularly take a look at this today. I thought this was interesting for you to take a look at. This is a chart from the Federal Reserve. They call it the FRED, on the personal savings rate since 1960. And if you see, it's kind of a steady rate, a few little dips and spikes, but then it starts decreasing into the 2000s. And then when you get to 2020, all of a sudden it spikes. Why do you think that happened?